Opinions expressed on the following program don't necessarily reflect those of this station, its management, or that of Windy City Hometown Network.
Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's Chicago Junction, being the radio program that is all about everything that is railroad. Now, here's our boss, the head of Windy City Hometown Radio Network, as well as being the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Thank you, Jack. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Tuesday, December the 23rd, the year 2014. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here is our announcer and moderator, Mr. Jack Ryan.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Jack Red Ryan. That's me. I'll throw it to myself. We're operating a little short tonight, and this is supposed to be our Christmas, our holiday, our New Year's program. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Auld Lang Syne to everyone. So, tonight we are myself, Jack Ryan, the least knowledgeable railroad guy here, and we're sitting with, to my left, Doug Kenyuk. Doug?
Howdy, everybody.
And what's your background with railroad?
I'm a railroader, rail fan, and one of the officers in the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago.
And you're in academia, correct?
Yes.
And you're
I'm a teacher over at Wright College.
Right, yeah. Okay, that's named after Wilbur Orville.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Okay, and my good friend and my part-time chauffeur, Kevin Barry.
Good evening.
And you are what? What's your background with railroad? It's the clubs or affiliation?
Well, I'm a member of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, lifetime Lionel train owner and operator, railroading merit badge counselor with the Boy Scouts, and just generally in love with trains and their history and all the other good things that go with them.
Okay. Are you a gourmet or a gourmand?
I would be a gourmet,
No.
as far as trains go.
We're referring to a previous discussion we had, folks. A little inside joke here, but not very funny anyway. Okay, anybody have anything immediately to talk about, or anyone have a call yet, John? Or we do?
Not yet.
Yellow?
If you get the opportunity to go on to Google and check for the Canadian National Holiday Train, not Google, YouTube. Check for the Canadian National Holiday Train. There's a 4.5 or 5.5 minute video of the train crossing the Mississippi River. And it's a late evening shot, and it's completely lit up. It's beautiful. It's the engine, and then four high cube cars with Canadian National Happy Holidays, and then they go into some other cars, and then the last 3 or 4 cars on the train are coaches. So they're obviously out of the Canadian National Executive Fleet, and the last car in the consist is a square-tailed observation car with the open porch.
Is this a recent film?
Within the last couple of weeks. It actually hit Channel 7 had about a 30-second clip on it, but the YouTube is 4.5 or 5.5 minutes.
We have a caller. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Shannon Brown with the 2015 Lincoln Funeral Train. How are you?
We recognize your voice. We had to get a little progress. We're going to be good friends here. The 2015 Lincoln funeral train, as everyone knows, is a commemorative 150th anniversary since the train brought Abraham Lincoln's body and remains back to Illinois from Washington, correct?
That's correct.
And, well, tell us everything for someone who hasn't heard this before. Let us know. Yes?
Yes. Yeah, we're actually working still on the car. As we've said before, the locomotive is finished and just waiting to get the Lincoln coach finished and being built there in Elgin. And it is an accurate replica of the car that carried President Lincoln's body and Willie Lincoln's body home from Washington to Springfield in April and into May of 1865. We've got our first coat of paint on the car. That's pretty exciting. So things are coming along, and it really, anyone who would see it now would certainly recognize it if they're familiar with what the original looked like. They would certainly appreciate the accuracy of this replica.
Now, that's in Elgin, Illinois, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And you're in Bloomington, Indiana.
That's right.
Have you seen it yourself? Have you seen the train?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Oh, okay. And
yep. I was up, let's see, early November was the last time that I'd been to the shop. And at that time, they did not have paint on yet, but they had all the battens were on, and the vestibule roof out on the back over the platform was finished, and a lot of the trim work was being done on the windows inside. We've got an amazing team of volunteers. There's no government money, no grants of any kind that are funding this project. It's all a combination of the builder's own funds and private donations, and probably 85% of the work is being done by teams of volunteers, and these woodworkers are incredible. There's a team led by a gentleman from Iowa, a gentleman by the name of Jerry Menenga from Iowa, who is a retired industrial arts teacher. And he brings a group of volunteers that are woodworkers in various capacities, and they have done an outstanding job so far on this car. It is beautiful. It is literally going to be a rolling piece of art.
That's what you get when you get people who love what they do, and they do it for the love of it.
That's right.
All right?
That's right.
And would that include yourself?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. So I'm certainly not as talented as Jerry and his crew, but it is a labor of love for everybody who's involved in it. And we're hard at work, and we clearly are on the downside now of our push to get finished in time to have all these appearances at these events in 2015, and we'll make it, but we certainly could still use donations, and donations are tax deductible, and we could also use sponsorships. I mean, there's incredible opportunity here for businesses of any size and really any caliber who would want to take part in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because that's exactly what this is. And we have some national media that are that are interested in interviewing the builder after the first of the year. I'm not at liberty just yet to say what outlet that is, but we have been assured that they do want to talk to us, and they do want to help us get our story out there. So anyone who is looking for an opportunity to have that kind of exposure, we would certainly welcome them as a sponsor. There's all kinds of opportunity to have logos and names on all of our trucks. It takes 4 semis to move this thing around. So there's a lot of exposure that's going to come along with this.
So the publicity is coming along pretty well too, then, right?
It is. It's building, and as we get closer, it was sort of it was at fits and starts for a while, and now it seems more like a steady roll, and it's kind of it's picking up every little bit as we get closer, and that's wonderful. We've also had, just in the last 48 hours, we had interest from a TV station in Germany, of all places, that would like to get a little more information and get our story on the air over there. So clearly we're reaching beyond national boundaries now to international interest. And
let me see now, if I can remember this from memory, is it the 2015 or just 2015 LincolnFuneralTrain.org? Yes,
.com. It is the 2015. You have to have the THE out there in front. The 2015 LincolnFuneralTrain.com.
Okay. So that everyone goes there, they can just learn, everything that we're talking about and more, correct?
That's correct. And for anyone who's on Facebook, we're also on there. It's just 2015 Lincoln Funeral Training.
Okay, very good. Any questions, gentlemen? We have Kevin Berry and Doug Kenyuk and myself and John DeVita. We're here, kind of lowering kind of light tonight. We're so glad to have you, though. Any questions or observations? Or
Yeah, where will the first run of the Lincoln train be?
The first run?
Right.
Well, that's actually to be determined right now. We're in contact with several of the locations that were on the original route, and it most likely will be one of those, but we don't know exactly yet because we're working with the railroads on track rights. Wherever we put this thing on the tracks, unless it's a spur line, but if it's an active rail line, then we're looking at competing with, passenger traffic or freight traffic or something. So we are certainly aware of that, and we want to work with the railroads. But it most likely will be in one of the 12 original cities that held a funeral for President Lincoln.
Kevin?
What's the likelihood that you're going to be able to operate on the Illinois Central tracks here in Chicago?
We have had contact, and likelihood right now is I'd say that their chances are probably about the same as anyone else's. I know that's not a great response, but we're in contact, like I said, with them as well as several other lines, and it's really just a matter of logistics. It's a matter of how can we do this and do this, on the scale that it needs to be done with minimal disruption to the traffic that needs to be on those lines.
The reason I asked is the Lincoln Funeral Train has a place in Chicago in the spectral realm because the ghost Lincoln train has been spotted a few times here in Chicago along the trackage between Cermak and 39th Street. One of my dear friends who's no longer with us, Rich Crow, ran the Chicago Supernatural Ghost Tours, and that was always a highlight of the tour.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be wonderful to see the train crossing or running down the track again, where it's been seen so many times in the ghost image.
Sure, and again, we're open to any possibilities, and anyone who would want to discuss that, that possibility with us, we're certainly. We're certainly open to hearing from them, but we are in contact with those folks as well as Amtrak and Union Pacific and CSX. So.
Okay, so we can contact you about trying to get you to stop there, and we also can make contributions through this website, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. There's a donate button right on the front page.
Okay, and any other questions? Can we call you back and get another progress report? Or
Absolutely. Yeah, as I said, we're probably going to work not all the way through the holiday season here, but close. And we've got that first coat of paint on, and so pictures of that. We're going to do some updates on the web and on Facebook of those, and just sort of visual status reports as the work progresses. And then after the first of the year, it's really going to pick up because April will be here before we know it, and believe me, nobody's as aware of that as we are. So,
can you say snowballing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of the train on the downward slope with no brakes at this point. So it's going to be full out come the first of the year.
All right, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Shannon Brown from the 2015 Lincoln Funeral Train. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, I'd sure like to get my neighborhood. That's the way to do it. Anybody super billionaires out there? Or?
Not this week.
Of course, what would you rather have? One big donation or thousands of small ones come in? Well, both of them, obviously, but everybody threw in a few bucks.
Yeah, if everybody could spare $5 or $10, it wouldn't hurt too much.
No, that's what Kickstarter does.
Who's that?
There's a website called Kickstarter where they do that. They ask people for small donations, and they can raise a lot of money very quickly.
Why didn't I think of that one? I got my own favorite charity, so I'm working on my second million. Gave up on the first one. So anyway, let's go. Who's got some material here, Doug?
Well, I have a bunch of stuff on local railroad activity. Let's start first with Trans-Distribution Brookfield Railroad Company. This is the operation you could see from the Brookfield Railroad Station, not the Brookfield. The railroad station that's it's on the BNSF, next to the IHB. Not sure if that's that is Brookfield, isn't it?
I believe so.
Okay,
And
IHB
you could see the transload operation from the station.
The IHB is
Indiana Harbor Belt.
okay
Yeah, it's the Indiana Harbor Belt where it ducks underneath the BNSF.
the Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
Yes.
I got that one.
Right, and the Brookfield Station, you could see this transload operation from there.
Okay.
And they're incorporating their own railroad, little switching operation. So that's the first big news we have. Same company has one called Trans-Distribution Ridgeland Railroad Company, and they're in Berwyn. And this is where you can see on the aerial photographs. It's a great big building. It's where the old Chicago Central and Pacific crossed the Burlington Northern. Now it's IC Canadian National. Again, these transloads are built in are getting onto the national network as their own short line railroads. And there's probably some tax reason or regulation reason why they're doing this as opposed to letting the railroads come in and switch. Both of these have their own track mobiles, so they were already doing their own switching. So not sure why suddenly they're going into being short lines. A third one called R. Built Rail Lines. That's B-U-L-T. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. I would say built, but I guess
Bolt.
Yeah, Bolt maybe. They're building about a half mile to a mile worth of track just north of the UP Joliet transload, where the UP runs their transload in Joliet. They're built just in the northwest corner by Layaway Road and Patterson. Again, they're incorporating as a short line railroad to be a transload facility. Not sure what they're transloading. I think it's oil from their filings. So that's the three new short lines we just got recently. Illinois Railway has been busy. Illinois Railway took over the track that used to be LaSalle and Bureau County. Now, LaSalle and Bureau County became Chicago Rail Link. They got rid of that operations and moved north and took over what was left of the Rock Island in Chicago. Well, this rail line, the city of Peru, there was a spur that ran off of it for about 3 miles to a factory that's their biggest employer down there. So the city of Peru bought this track, gave Illinois, at the time Illinois Rail Link, now Illinois Railways, the right to switch it. Now they're going to lease it to them to switch the plant. And again, I think that's just a matter of they still like all the paperwork, because right now they got track rights on a railroad that's owned by the city. So the city is selling it to this land company. The land companies turn around leasing it to the Illinois Railways. Nothing changes, but I think it's just they're just getting rid of paperwork.
Paper shuffling.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because there's one less person involved in filing papers. Pioneer Railroad's doing a cleanup of their corporate structure. They're merging some of their stuff together, doing family corporate transactions. Why I mention it, Elkhart and Western, they run that guy. They run Indiana Southwestern in the area. And I'm trying to find the one that's in the Chicago area here, Decatur Junction. That's going to be a surviving company, is Decatur Junction.
Decatur?
Yep. Decatur Junction.
Okay.
Operating out of Decatur there. That's I don't have the mileage here.
Decatur, Illinois?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's their one. Oh, another one. Here's another transload, Joliet Bulk and Barge. This is the one that's taken over. This is the one I was talking about. Our built was in Chicago.
Is that the one on the old steel plant
Yeah.
at 106th and Torrance?
No, this one's at Dobson's and 87th.
87th and Dobson.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the our built one. The one in Joliet's the Joliet Bulk Barge and Rail. Got the companies mixed up. There's so many of them. They all came in a 3-day time period here.
Why is this all of a sudden?
I believe this is like a tax advantage or regulation advantage, because when you connect to the national network, you come under federal laws. Federal laws always trump state and local.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be, and there's also somebody mentioned there's a tax advantage too to being part of the national network. Don't know. Iowa Pacific took advantage of it. They took over the old Milwaukee road lines that ran to Goose Island. Well, one part of the track ran down Kingsbury from North Avenue down to Division Street. They used to connect to Union Station one time. Well, there was no business on the line. The track ran right down the middle of Kingsbury. And Chicago filed an adverse abandonment to get rid of it. Now, adverse means they could force them out of business, force them to get rid of the track. Well, Iowa Pacific said, no, this is active. It's part of the national network. You can't do that. To prove that, Iowa Pacific had one of their other subsidiaries order a gondola load of wood. Now, at a block north of Division, right off of Kingsbury, there's a wood distributor. I mean, this guy sells firewood. It's piled high and deep. So they sent a gondola all the way down to the end of the line, loaded it up, pulled it out there, and told Chicago it's an active freight customer. You want this railroad, you got to buy it. So Chicago had to pay him a nice little tidy sum of money to buy the rail line from North Avenue to Division in order to tear it out and repave the street so Whole Foods customers weren't offended.
Why don't they just leave it?
Because when you drove across it, your tires went blah, 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 blah. and sensitive ears can't handle that. It wasn't the people going to the Gentlemen's Club on Kingsbury that were complaining.
Nope.
I'm no gentleman, so I would know about that.
So, further news.
And the only thing that was really, the only business that was actually along Kingsbury is there's a couple of humongous scrap yards up there.
Oh, that's up at Armitage. General Irons, the scrap company, used to have Finkel Steel. They're moving south. They took over the
Verson,
yeah. So they're pulling out. They still do some minor stuff up there, but that's one customer they lost. They have Big Bay Lumber on Goose Island, and they got Sippy Steel, which gets 3 cars a year.
Who's that?
Sippy Steel.
Oh, Sippy, okay.
Illinois Terminal Railway has, I believe they only have one piece of motive power.
That's the Chicago terminal.
Yeah, Chicago. They got one engine. You can see it when you're on the Kennedy going north towards Armitage.
Mm-hmm.
It's parked in the North Avenue yards. It's on-demand service.
Yeah.
I talked to the guys. Matter of fact, for a brief period, Republic Windows actually brought a shipment in on a flat car, one of those bulkhead cars. So I was actually up on the engine with them while they were waiting, because right in the street, they pulled the car up, stopped. The guys came out with the forklifts, pulled all the stuff off, and they dragged the car back to the North Avenue yard. But Republic Windows went out of business. That was a company that went through 3 ownerships in a space of 2 years. And each time a new owner took over, all the politicians, oh, look, we're saving all these jobs. And then that company bellied up, and the next one took over.
Well, the thing about the Chicago terminal is about 150 yards south of the Cortland Avenue Bridge is a swing bridge.
Yep.
That crosses the north branch of the river. And that was the only way for that engine to get over to Finkel Steel. So when they don't need it, the bridge is just pivoted out of the way, and it lays up against the west side of the river, and when they need it, they swing it out and it crosses the river.
It's a nice shot when they're running.
It's beautiful shot. I mean,
and they're Iowa Pacific, which owns them. They're very rail fan friendly. They also run the operations in Elk Grove Village and the Bensonville Industrial Lead, which is the one just off of York Road by Irving Park.
Well, the Chicago terminal's got such an interesting logo. I mean, they basically stole the city flag.
They can have it.
Well, it's a nice logo. I mean, the engines are painted. What would you call that? Red, dark red.
It's called iron oxide. It's almost an ox blood,
Okay, and then they got their logo.
and it's a gloss.
And even though it says Chicago Terminal, it also says ILSX on it because that's the company they lease them from. So it's
Okay.
kind of like dual ownership. Mm-hmm. But they're rail fan friendly.
That's good to hear.
So it's
A little
so
public
far.
relations there is good for them
Yes.
too, isn't it?
Well, that Ellis is very rail friendly. He's been over to our club and gave a presentation about the railroads they took over and stuff, and very nice. Okay, on with other news. Good old Wisconsin Southern acquired a whole bunch of lines from the Union Pacific up in Wisconsin. Now, these lines are interesting because they're owned by WisDOT, Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Apparently, over the years, every time a railroad tries to get rid of some track, Wisconsin stepped in and bought it, and rail banked it, or turned it into a trail to be later turned back to rail, which is yet to be seen. So these are lines that are operating in and out of, let me see if I can find it on the notes here real quick. It's about in and out of Reedsburg, Wisconsin.
Okay.
A bunch of lines, runs up to about 190 miles worth of rail lines in 3 separate segments. So, and it's way Wisconsin does it is if the state doesn't get it, they have local transit commissions that buy it. So one of these segments is owned by what's called the Wisconsin River Rail Transit Commission. They seem to own a lot of the rail lines that Wisconsin Southern operates on. They also own the line down into Fox Lake here in Illinois, that River Commission. So these lines are being purchased from the UP by the state and by this River Commission, and then Wisconsin Southern's going to be operating them.
Sounds like a good way to keep the track available in case they ever decide to put commuter service in.
Yep. Yeah, everybody says Wisconsin's anti-rail. They're just anti-passenger trains. They are very freight-oriented up there because I got another one coming up about them reactivating the line because of that. A railroad called C&NC. Not sure why that's their name. Just C ampersand NC. It's in Indiana between Beeson's and Newcastle. And apparently they lease a line from the Norfolk Southern, and they just renewed their lease and extended it.
Newcastle,
Indiana.
Indiana.
This is down in Indiana.
Do they carry any coals over there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Wrong Newcastle.
Wrong Newcastle, yes.
I know how to say that. Come on.
You will be Irish all your life.
So here's one that's interesting. They had a file with the STB to change who dispatches 483 feet of track in Blue Island. Yes, you heard me right. Apparently, this was owned by the IHB, and they're going to switch dispatching of it to CSX. Now, this goes back to the early days when it was Chicago and Calumet Terminal and the Chicago, Hammond, and Western, which was their predecessors. Chicago, Hammond, and Western was what was originally called the Chicago Outer Belt, is now the IHB, the Indiana Harbor Belt. Chicago and Calumet Terminal was merged and became the Chicago Terminal Transfer. Today it's known as the Baltimore, Ohio, Chicago Terminal Line. And apparently it causes all kinds of operational difficulties because as the trains cross the tracks, they got to call up each other's dispatchers to get the permission. This 483 feet was between 2 dispatch districts. So CSX, IHB, CSX. So now it's all going to be one dispatcher dispatching it.
They don't want to have a repeat of the Amtrak train double parking on the string of TTUX cars that they had a few years ago because it was dispatched out of Texas.
So what is that they had to modify their operating agreement, file with the STB, and so on. And it's over about 483 feet of track that we're talking about. Kind of interesting. I mean, I got the whole, if you guys want to read it, I got the whole write-up here. I'll be putting it up on the website in the near future.
No, I think a migraine headache would be more enjoyable.
Now, here's one that's interesting. Another railroad called the Midwest Railroad Company. They're leasing about 2,000 feet of track down in the Blue Island Yard. They're going to be a competitor to the Iowa Pacific Holdings in running custom passenger service. The problem is they haven't been paying their bills. So they filed to become a railroad so they could switch their own cars instead of having the Chicago Rail Link do it. So there'll be more in a minute.
We're going to take a short break, folks. You're listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Radio Network and this station.
You are listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Tuesday, December the 23rd, the year 2014. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich. And now back to our panel and Chicago Junction.
Back on? Yeah, we are. Before we continue, we have an original poem to be read. It's called The Night Before Christmas. It's not as well known as the original, but I can see the panel doesn't want to read that one now. We'll save that, folks, so we'll put it on the website. Okay, back, Doug, what you were talking about now?
Okay, well, Midwest Railroad, switching passenger cars, their plans are to run custom passenger service, sort of like what Iowa Pacific Holdings is doing, where they run the passenger cars, their luxury cars between Chicago and New Orleans, and they're starting up between Chicago and New York, and these guys want to do the same thing. So anyway, they're having a little bit of a problem with the Chicago Rail Link and leasing this one track and turning themselves into a short line railroad in the process. Okay, on to the next one. Wisconsin Great Northern is leasing some rail line from Wisconsin Central, i.e. Canadian Northern. This is up in Hayward. From Hayward to Hayward Junction. It's going to be about it's going to be about 6 miles of extra track. Wisconsin Great Northern is a leasing operation. They are a car refurbishing company, and now they're going to own their own rail line to and from their shops. So they're going to become they're extending their operations.
Not becoming a monopoly now, are they?
Not yet.
Be a short line?
Now, are they going to be in competition with the outfit that was up in Horicon, Wisconsin? Or are they a successor company to them?
Not really sure.
Because there used to be the guy that owned the operation in Horicon.
Great Northern, that's the guy, or Northern something. It was Northern Rail Car, that's what
Northern
it was.
Rail Car. He was at one point married, and his wife ran Scenic Rail Dining. Tremendous dinner train.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like you stepped back 50 years in time. Unfortunately, he and the wife got divorced, and he forced the sale of the rolling stock from Scenic Rail Dining. But I mean, if they got 90 miles of track, they could start a dinner train up there.
I believe Northern Rail Car was associated with Wisconsin and Calumet. Now, Wisconsin and Calumet took over a lot of the Milwaukee lines up in Wisconsin and had a track rights down to the BRC. Wisconsin Southern took them over. Bought them over, or maybe that was part of the deal when they were breaking up. The guy had because they were affiliated with the Wisconsin and Calumet Railroad.
Okay.
So maybe that's why the Wisconsin Calumet was absorbed by the Wisconsin and Southern.
I want to say maybe 15 years ago I had an opportunity to go up to Oshkosh for the fly-in, and I went with the 20th Century Railroad Club on a charter Amtrak. And we pulled in on the siding, and sitting next to us was the personal train of the president of the Wisconsin Southern. And now, talk about a kid on Christmas morning. Here's the engine. Stainless steel and maroon with the WS logo with the swan. And then as you go back, there's the B unit, which is all power, no windows. and then you've got a dormitory car, then you've got the sleeper, then he took a dome car, took the lower seating out of the dome car, and there's like a 20-foot long mahogany dinner table with the high back chairs, and the table is laid with the silver and crystal and china. Okay? Yeah, the kind of stuff that our great-great-grandparents, John, would have only been familiar with if they worked for somebody with money.
If they were a servant, correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Upstairs, downstairs. Or
there's
something
like
that.
four plates nested, and 3 or 4 drinking glasses, you know, and enough silver to buy a small country, and candelabras.
You do mean silver. You don't mean stainless or something.
No, I mean,
Silver.
it was either silver or sterling silver, but when the sunlight hit it, it was painful on the eyes. You know, and then all the way back to the end of the train, and the train ended in a boat-tailed observation car. I mean, I almost didn't go to the airfield to look at airplanes, and I love airplanes almost as much as I love trains.
Did you get to go on the train?
No.
Oh, you let me. As I was saying.
The closest you could get was like maybe 10, 15 feet. But I mean, even that was
Sounds
enough.
Like a rolling museum in some way, right?
If I remember correctly, the power unit was an E8, which a little,
Sounds about right.
little bit older than the F units that most of us remember Metra being pulled by.
So that would be about how old you think?
Maybe the late 50s.
Yeah, about 50 years old, the locomotives.
I mean, but I mean, it's the kind of thing that if it was a train set, I'd be willing to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for months to be able to buy it.
What kind of bread?
I'd settle for white bread as long as I could get that train.
That beautiful, huh?
That train's featured on their calendar that's for sale at their website.
Oh, okay. The train or the calendar's for sale.
Yeah, calendar. Picture of the train.
Wisconsin Southern, huh?
Yeah.
It's not as pretty as the Norfolk and Western 611J class, but you know, it's a really good looking cousin.
You know.
Okay.
First cousin, huh?
Close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a beautiful, you know. I mean, I wasn't the only guy standing there with my jaw hanging over and saliva coming out of my mouth.
It was an unexpected treat then. You were going for the planes and you got the trains.
Yes, my wife tolerates the trains because she says she loves me, but
Yeah.
even she was impressed.
That's saying something, gang. That's saying something.
Okay, on with some more news.
Oh, let's hear
Down in La Malle, I think that's how you pronounce it, Lamoille, La Malle, Illinois. After the railroads pulled out the train station and the railroad left the caboose behind, and apparently it's been in disrepair for quite some time, and the village is rallying their people and they're getting ready to restore everything.
Cool.
So that'll be kind of nice. They got a big article here talking about how they're renting it to the local modern railroad club and stuff, but basically that's the thumbnail what's going on there. All right, here's the Wisconsin and Southern. The Ogden, Wisconsin to Fitchburg rail line's being reactivated after been rail banked for a good part of 15 years because a customer online wants rail service. So the state and the good old Wisconsin Rail Transit Commission is reactivating, rebuilding the line, and giving it to the Wisconsin Southern to operate. So that's good news. That's rail track being returned back from the dead, basically.
We have a special train that will be operating in Chicago. It'll be actually the last day of its service, and that's the CTA holiday train. And if you've never seen it, it's unique. The CTA it's 1 or 2 flat cars that are put into service just at Christmas, and it will be operating on the yellow line, and I'm not sure where the yellow line is. Skokie. December 23rd for the day. It's been in service on weekends since November 28th, and it's progressed from the green line to the orange and the brown lines to the pink to the blue to the red this past weekend, and it'll be alternating. It'll be on the purple line, and then its last presentation will be December 23rd on the yellow.
Yellow, you say Skokie? That's Skokie Swift line?
Yes.
The old Emerald City Express.
Yeah, Skokie runs from Howard to Dempster with a stop now at Oakton.
Yeah, Swift. I thought that was a bird. A Swift, Skokie Swift.
Yeah, it was a bird. They actually had a little bird for it.
Okay, let's hear some more. That's one.
And December 23rd, the CTA holiday bus, also known as the Santa Express, will be operating on the number 49 route on Western Avenue. And I had a chance to see it this afternoon at 79th and State, and it really is impressive. With its bright red nose and its antlers and the special Christmas graphics.
Now, the 49 would be the line that ends at 79th
Runs
Street?
north and south along Western Avenue.
To 79th, and then is that where the terminal is, I think?
Yeah, 79th Street on the south, and I don't know how far north it goes, because Western does go all the way to city limits.
But there's
north.
another line that goes out south on Western, correct?
Yes, from 79th Street. That's the 49A.
So that's probably that's probably one of the longest runs in the city. It has to be.
Yes.
That runs past Old Riverview. We used to take the bus there to Riverview.
Yes, remember it well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got to go there twice when I was a kid.
That's all?
Yep.
We could tell when it was open because I could see it from the school that I went to. We could see the parachutes going up and down.
Riverview for you young ones out here. Great amusement park. Belmont and Western. There had been a hunt club at one time. It's been gone now since 1967, but it was a place to go for all your rides, all your attractions. Take your whole family with you, all your cousins like we used to all the time. Special days, right?
There were.
Yeah. John, you know anything about Riverview?
Oh, don't get me started.
But we digress.
Here's a piece of trivia for you. Remember Aladdin's Castle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
The entrance to Aladdin's Castle, how you just had to, do the snake dance through all the gates to get in. The entrance to Aladdin's Castle, as we remember it, happens to be the same spot where the door to the lockup at the police station is. The two of them line up perfectly.
That's a combination area headquarters and district.
Yes.
It was the 19th district and the 6th area, but now it's the 3rd area. And what district would that be? Still,
I don't know.
Yeah, the way the numbering system.
There's also courtrooms there too.
Oh yeah,
I think it still is 19. I think when they reduced the number of police districts, they didn't change the numbers. They just lined out the ones that they stopped.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is the 19th police. When they closed up Town Hall, they move it over to Belmont and Western.
Town Hall became 23.
Yeah.
They changed the number years ago when they went there. So.
Yep. Well, you're talking about Riverview Park. I tell you, you're going to make me cry because that was my home away from home in the summertime. Because I just lived a few blocks away from there. I lived at Addison, Western, 3528 North Oakley is where we lived. And when I looked out my bedroom window, I could see the Lane Tech Clock Tower right in front of me, and then look over to my left, to the south. There I would see the Riverview Park parachute jump, and then when we would get a south wind, we could hear the music. And then on the 4th of July, we used to sit on our back porch and watch the fireworks display.
All right, John, which ride was your favorite? The Mad Mouse, the Comet, or the Fireball?
The Greyhound.
The Greyhound.
The Greyhound, yeah.
Okay.
I went on the Bob's just once, and I swore I would never go on that again. But I was the Blue Streak, the Silver Streak, the Greyhound. I enjoyed all those. I enjoyed all the rides except for the for the Bob's. That was the worst.
Okay.
And I used to go over there almost every evening and sit right by the parachute jump and watch the boats come down the slide into the water, and just sit there and listen to the music playing.
Do you know who was supposed to be the highest paid employees at Riverview?
No.
The guys with the dunk tank. The guys with, you throw the ball.
Yeah.
You know, they something smart to it, like, hey, you went to some other girl yesterday. They'd say to a guy,
Yeah.
the more they throw at him, the
Yeah.
more money they make. But
And then on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights, Buddy Black, who at that time was with WGN Radio, used to broadcast Riverview time. They had like right across from the Freak Show. They had almost like a garage, and that was their studios. And what we used to do, I used to set a tape recorder and a clock radio, and at 8 o'clock the clock radio would come on, the tape recorder would go on, and we'd be over at Riverview Park, and we'd be yelling, hey, hey, and making all kinds of noises and that. And then afterwards we would go home, rewind the tape, and hear ourselves on radio.
Previous has been a non-commercial message about a park that has been going for 47 years now. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the 60s, we lost two great amusements. We lost the Aragon Ballroom for the music of the big band era in February, and then Riverview Park. And I saw the parachute jump when they cut it, and that thing just fell down to just a bunch of metal. I saw that happen.
Aragon Ballroom. I wrestled there in the 70s.
Is that
But
right?
that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get back to railroads.
Okay, well, I have a question. Sitting in front of me is a nice oak scale locomotive and caboose. Would you like to fill us in about this?
Yes, it's a beep, which is a short-framed general-purpose switch engine. Well, it's a beep. It's a Jeep. It's a short general-purpose engine, and it's painted in green and red. It's the North Pole and Snowflake, and it's 12. The engine number is 1225, and it has a center cupola caboose right behind it, also in the green and red paint, also North Pole and Snowflake, with the outside number of C1225. It's a Christmas engine and caboose. It's made by Ready Made Toys. I've had them for about 10 or 12 years. And when I run them on the layout at Christmas, I've got 3 flat cars that go in the middle. And the first flat car is the Lionel Christmas tree flat car, followed by 2 other red flat cars that have Santa and the reindeer. And it makes a nice little attention getter.
And that's 3-rail or 2-rail?
It's the same as Lionel. It's 3-rail. It's Lionel compatible. It's made by RMT, but and the caboose is interior lit, as well as the cab. Now, the beep is not a creation of somebody's mind. If you get a chance to go to D.C., their local transportation line, it has a beep that they use for moving passenger cars around, putting the consists together for the morning and afternoon rush. And Brian said that Septra, which is in Philadelphia, I believe, also has a beep that they use for similar purposes.
You talking about the subway or the mass transit in Washington, D.C.? No.
Washington, not the
Metro, is it?
not the Metro, not their
Okay.
version of the subway, but
Yeah.
they also
Is it MARTA that's running out
maybe
of
it's
DC?
MARTA.
Yeah,
MARTA is one of them. VRE is one of them.
right.
I think it's MARTA that has the beep.
Does she?
Yes.
MARTA stands as an anagram for Metropolitan.
I think it's Maryland Area Rapid Transit System.
There you go.
Something like that.
And then the other one, VRE, is Virginia Railway Express.
Yeah.
Aha.
DC if someone tells you they work in Washington, D.C., odds are they don't live in Washington,
Yeah,
D.C.
they live in Alexandria. They live in,
Yeah.
wherever.
My
Maryland,
son works in D.C., but he lives in Alexandria, but he's close enough that he can drive in. But they have tremendous rail net, and their metro service,
Immaculate.
oh,
It's immaculate,
well lit, immaculate,
Clean, safe.
clean, safe. Their stations look like something out of a science fiction show.
Or something you'd have at Disney World.
Yeah,
Am I
really.
right? Yeah. No,
And the cars they use are very similar to the ones they use for the People Mover down in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually ride on tires.
So they're quiet, sort of like Montreal. They run
that's
tires.
why it was so quiet. I was down there. Our daughters lived there, and our son-in-law, and Jen lived there for 5 years, and Michelle was about double that, and they're all back here now. But we did visit quite often, and I remember about the mass transit there. It was very deep in the ground. It seemed like very down far, and it was just everything you said before. It was just beautiful. It was immaculate. It was clean, fresh,
The only
and quiet.
only other mass transit system that I've ridden on that the tracks are that far below ground level would be on the metro in London. In London, in places you have 2 and 3 sets of lines crossing under each other.
Really? Are they the oldest in the world, or?
I don't know if London or Paris
But they're
is
pretty
the
close,
old.
huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned transit. If you go out to YouTube and put in the search term CTA Ride the Rails, CTA has posted videos on all their transit lines. They put a camera in front of the train and record it terminal to terminal on all the rail lines, then speeded it up. So an hour trip takes 10 minutes. And it's kind of cool when it hits the subway, the older part of the subways, because it looks like a bad sci-fi
Yeah.
traveling through space. They are kind of wild to watch, and you can watch like O'Hare to Forest Park back to O'Hare, each one separate, anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes long. Speed it up. Of course, you look at that and wondering why can't they run at that speed normally, but it's kind of fun to watch because you could see the whole system now. It's a series. Looks like about 10 videos.
What is that again?
It's called CTA Ride the Rails.
Ride the rails. Now, what you said about the old part of the subway reminds me kind of the Batcave. It's
Yeah. Yeah, this one looks. You ever seen those
creepier.
movies when they go like high speed in space? They're going
Yeah.
at warp speed.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what it
it.
looks like. That's what it looks like when this video is speeded up when they're going through the Dearborn or the State Street subway.
The Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
if you go to the website for the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, the website would be www.clrctrains.com, all lowercase letters. Pan down almost to the bottom of the home page, and there is a video of a train going around the entire layout. They put a camera in the caboose. So it's really, really unique, and the adults love it, and it mesmerizes the kids.
Well, they have the cameras. They have the locomotives you could buy with the cameras mounted in it, so you get the same view as the engineer, and have it piped in real time to a TV monitor, so you could watch the train travel your layout, so you could see how well your modeling's been.
Yes, it's not that hard to do because
No.
now they have the shirt button and the peephole cameras. We have one guy at the club mounted one on a flat car, and he puts it in front of the engine, and so you don't have to worry about looking down the side of the engine,
Sure.
and you get I think you get a better quality picture than you got with the ones that Lionel put out.
Okay. What else we got here? We're going to have something.
All right, like I mentioned, our website, the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago's websites, rscc.dhke.com. And you can look at our schedule. We don't have our speakers lined up for 2015 yet, but you can come down any third Friday of every month to our meeting. Our meetings are at Union Station. We have a meeting room at Union Station, so we have our presentations done there.
Yes, anything?
Well, if you got a little one, whether it's a child or a grandchild, and then they're in a 2, 3, 4-year-old age group, and they're just dog nuts about trains, Lionel does make something they call Little Lionel, and it's a battery-powered G-scale train. So it never gets fast enough to go flying off the track on the curve, and it's perfect for first train for a kid. And when they get a little bit older, but they're not ready for a real Lionel, they've got the new Lionel trains with the Lion Roar system, where the transformer plugs into the wall, and there's actually a controller. It looks a whole lot like a television controller, with a knob that you turn to the right to go forward or the left to go back, and has buttons for the horn and the whistle. And it's great for kids. And my granddaughter had a Lion Roar Thomas the Tank Engine set from the day she was 10 years old, or 10 days old.
So, any other, we got any Christmas festivities anyone knows of, or there's Christmas trains? I think everyone's running a Christmas train of some kind. Or
The best way to find out about that is just Google Christmas trains.
Yeah.
And if you can't find a Christmas train, don't despair. Metra still has the kids ride free on Saturday and Sunday with the fare-paying adult. Find out where your local Metra station is and the time, and take it and go downtown. And if you go into LaSalle Street Station, you're 4 blocks south of the Chris Kringle Mart at the Daily Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
If your train goes into Union Station, you're 4 blocks east of the Chris Kringle Mart.
West.
Or I'm sorry, no, you have you're 4 blocks. You are 4 blocks west. You have to walk 4 blocks east.
Right.
And when you get to the Chris Kringle Mart, if that's not enough for the kids, walk them another block over to State, and you got the Macy windows right there. You got the Christmas windows.
And it's still not enough. Go another block and a half, and go to the Bean.
Yeah, take them to the Bean.
Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but I still can't get used to Macy's name in Chicago here. And I'm no businessman, Lord knows that. But to give up the name Marshall Fields is should have been saved somehow, gang. You're gonna be Marshall Fields, a Macy's company or something like that. I know they have the national
Or a
advertising.
division of Macy's, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, something like that.
But
Well, that
taking
would
the
work.
kids for a ride on the train, even if they don't leave the station, come down to the station, turn around,
Yeah,
have something to eat, go back home. The kids will love it.
just the ride, seeing the thing, seeing the ride. I know we had my wife and our son-in-law Sean. Didn't mention his name before, and we had Jack, the 2-year-old, out at Illinois Railway Museum when Thomas was here, and it was the 23rd of August, I think it was. Loved the ride. He loved the ride. He loved seeing Thomas, but he loved the ride. Just was so fascinated with the moving train. It was different, and it's great. It's all these things are everything. We talk about education. People say like, were your kids homeschooled? I said, oh yeah, they were homeschooled, but they also went to school. So education shouldn't end. You're in the academia. You're a teacher. It shouldn't just end at 3 o'clock or whatever.
Nope.
I think that
24/7.
Whatever it is, it can be a little soft sell, a little encouragement. One thing I used to miss in doing homework with the kids, and you learn things you either forgot or never caught in the first place. It's a strange thing about it.
Or you get embarrassed.
Oh no, I know you're right.
My
Right.
daughter, who's now a school teacher,
Mhm.
asked me to help her with trigonometry one day,
Okay.
which I was cool with it. I still remembered sine, cosine, and tangent.
Mhm.
And I opened the back of the book, and there's no charts anymore. They're all embedded in the calculator.
Oh,
Oh, God.
Okay. I was an honor student in school too. Yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. So
all right.
anyway, are we close to
Christian Brothers?
That's Brandy, isn't it?
No, I'm talking about the ones that beat you with the ruler.
Augustinians.
Augustinians.
So anyway, we're winding up the show, and listen, we've done pretty well, us three. I think maybe there was a lack of communication here tonight. I apologize to our colleagues. I'm going to go write the most sob story email you ever read to everyone later. So just remember, Remember, what are we supposed to remember? Oh, happy rails to you. And we're going to go now to our closing. And by the way, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everyone from Windy City Hometown and Chicago Junction.
Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Be sure to join us again next time when we take our railroad of imagination on our continuing journey through the wonderful world of the train. Chicago Junction is the production of Windy City Hometown Radio Network and can be heard over this station as well as at windycityhometown.com, where recordings of all of our shows may be heard. Once again, all aboard. This is your announcer, John T. Ryan, alter ego of the MC Jack Red Ryan. Thanks for listening. Oh yeah, the conductor was portrayed by Charlie Johnson, a struggling young actor in need of work and personal friend.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Tuesday, December the 23rd, the year 2014. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita. Our audio engineer is James Rohde. Radio station manager for WRHS is Kevin Zeflick, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Seconda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, December the 16th, the year 2014. On behalf of the entire staff of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, the John DeVita Broadcast Center, and radio station WRHS FM Norwich, we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy New Year. Thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.